Hi, everybody. It's a Saturday morning in mid-April, and an old friend is with us today. This is a recorded Zoom interview with UNLV geology professor Erin Donaghy. Erin, thank you for your time on a Saturday morning. What's the weather like in Las Vegas, Nevada today?
Ooh, it's been very warm the past week. Today it's a little windy and cloudy, but still
Okay.
hot, like in the 80s.
So knowing you, you probably got out on a run or something already this morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go
Okay.
early.
Very
Otherwise,
good.
too hot now.
Yes, yes, very good. Well, viewers, let me talk directly to you for just a second and then we'll get going with Erin. This is a different kind of an interview, quote unquote. This is not so much talking about detailed geology, but it's more a brainstorming session. I'm looking for some inspiration from Erin. We're planning on doing a new Nick on the Rocks video in the Wenatchee River Valley between Wenatchee and Leavenworth, or maybe upstream from Leavenworth, I'm not sure, but field producer Gary Paul thought, come on, man, late April, the flowers, the greenery, the blue sky, the clouds, the white water on the Wenatchee River, we should capture that somehow. And I'm coming to the expert on the Chumstick Basin, Erin Donaghy. Erin, to start with, can you help remind all of us when and why were you doing mapping in that area?
Yeah, I did lithofacies mapping of the Chumstick Basin during my master's project. And so I was working with Paul Umhofer at Northern Arizona University. So the last time I was doing really heavy duty field work in the Chumstick Basin was during my master's, and that was in the summer of 2013. So it's been a while. Like, yes, we've been back a few times. You've been back with me and Mike as well.
Yeah.
But in 2013 was when I did most of the field work that's published in the paper. And we have a few new dates and some new data, but the core of that work was all part of my master's.
Thank you. So I'm imagining without thinking too hard, but I'm trying to get my mind back into your turf there from your masters. I'm thinking of a lot of sandstone, occasional airfall tuffs, and some juicy conglomerates occasionally here and there. Are those the main elements that we might want to try to feature bedrock wise?
Yeah, with pool part basins and most strike slip basins in general, one of the key identifying features of pool part basins are these rapid lateral changes in lithofacies, so rock lithologies. So along the basin margins, along the Leavenworth Fault Zone, which makes up the western margin of the Chumstick Basin, we have these really coarse-grained boulder conglomerates. And those were interpreted to be formed or deposited on really steep alluvial fans. And
Mhm.
then as you kind of move towards the center of the basin, you have this rapid transition into more massive sandstones or interbedded sandstones and some cobble pebble conglomerates. And those were all interpreted to be these essentially meandering stream systems, but also braided stream systems. So you had these, as you continue to go east, you get into another conglomerate facies. It's a little finer grained. They're not the same as the breccias or the really coarse grained boulder conglomerates along the Leavenworth Fault Zone. They're more of these cobble, really well-rounded subangular, sub-rounded cobble clasts. They're all being derived from the east, and those were making up these really low gradient braided stream dominated alluvial fans. And so you get this really rapid transition from west to east, essentially from your basin margins towards the basin axis, from these steep alluvial fans, these more low gradient alluvial fans, to kind of this axial braided stream to meandering stream system down the basin axis. So yeah, there's a lot of different rock types in the Drumstick Basin. And so, yeah, you might be remembering some of the really sandy facies that make up kind of
Yes.
that basin axis, and then the conglomerates that are kind of on the basin margins.
Okay, so I'm grinning because it's coming back to me. As you continue to talk, I'm already starting to think about things. So let's go back to some of that detail in a second, and you might want to share a few figures or two. But for now, um, let's just pull out and think about some landmarks, some places that we could feature. I'm stuck on the Peshastin Pinnacles as the one place that I think are on most people's radar screen mentally. It's right there along US 2. The bummer is it's a state park, and we usually have trouble getting permits from the state park system in a timely manner. So if we don't get access to film at Peshastin Pinnacle State Park, where are a few other, what are some places that come to mind that are in this basin that are maybe known landmarks that some people beyond geology junkies would know about?
Yeah, I think there's a few good places you could check out. You could go to the ski hill just north of Leavenworth, and usually this that's a really cool spot because you're actually on the margin of where you have the really sandy faces
Mm,
and sandy facies interfingering with those steep alluvial fan uh, boulder to cobble conglomerate. So it's up against the Leavenworth fault zone essentially, and
mm,
you have this transition from the conglomerates into the sandy facies. And most of the ski hill is made up of these steeply dipping interbedded sandstones, lenticular sandstones and mudstones. So you could see them there, and this was a stop that we did part of a GSA field trip in 2017 that Mike Eddy and Paul Umhofer and Bob Miller all led. And so we went there. And so you don't have to hike too far either. And you can kind of get like a good view of the ski hill. And it's a bunch of, steeply dipping sandstone beds that are kind of holding up the ski hill there. And so that's a good spot and it's easy to access. And
yeah.
then the Camas land syncline is also most of the sandy facies. So if you can get to a location where you have a good overlook of like the
Mm.
Camas land kind of area, the syncline there, that's just like a massive sheet sand. So there's a ton of those really thick bedded sandstones in that area as well.
And
And
the
then I could
Camas,
think,
go ahead.
oh, oh no, go ahead.
The Camas land is more away from the margin. Like as we're getting closer and closer to these fault bounded areas, either the Eniot Fault or the Leavenworth, we're getting more and more coarse as we go. But the Camas land, we're getting away from that margin.
That's still pretty close to the margin of
Okay,
the Leavenworth fault zone.
okay,
It's kind of where you have these left steps in the Leavenworth fault zone. So
I see.
it gets a little wider there. So
Yeah,
you have like the Leavenworth fault zone has essentially it steps left and then steps back right. So you
okay,
have it's not a continuous fault through there. So it's still kind of right up against the margin, but it's also kind of right where the fault steps out a little bit.
I
So,
got you. You had one more idea. I kind of cut you off. You had
oh,
another idea?
if you want a good overlook of the whole Chumstick Basin, you can also go, I think I wrote it down, hold on,
Mhm.
to I think I got a good overlook up number 2 Canyon and kind of hiking up on the trails there. And then you can get a really nice overlook of essentially all of the western sub-basin of the Chumstick. So all of the Clark Canyon member. So it's a really
Okay,
nice uh, a look or viewpoint of that west dipping monocline that makes up the entire kind of western sub-basin of the Chumstick Basin. So that's a really nice place to get, and it's beautiful. You see the
yeah,
Cascades in the background, and so it's a really beautiful scenic outlook. There's also another outlook you could go to that's up on the Eniat Fault that you could
okay.
overlook the entire Chumstick Basin. So that would kind of be looking at both the eastern and the western sub-basin of the Chumstick.
Okay, this is perfect. I mean, come on now. Every time it's just perfect. And you've seen enough of what I do to know kind of what I'm going for here. And yeah, I'm trying to make a video program that's translating some of this detail from your work and others and making it kind of work for kind of casual viewers who don't even love geology that much, but they just want to be inspired to come check out a place. I always catch myself like you did right there, like, well, you can go up here and get a nice overview. And I keep forgetting we've got a drone, man. So we can lift that drone anywhere and get all the shots that we need. So I think I think I'm more interested in specific outcrops and what we can feature. Like I forgot about the Leavenworth ski hill and those flowers and the mountain bikers and everything. We can capture that whole experience if we can get permission. By the way, viewers, if you want to leave a comment down below and add to this discussion about a good place, or if somebody knows who I can contact to get permission to film at the ski hill, that'd be great. What do you remember about that featured outcrop at the ski hill, or a couple of them that we could really get down on our hands and knees and combine the big droney, big picture scenery with some real small scale detail? Are those conglomerates right there for us to pull out a few cobbles?
The conglomerates are a little more difficult to access, but it's not impossible. You could get to the lower part of that section if you park, and this is my memory from
Yeah,
2013, so I
right,
don't know if it's
right.
changed, but when you parked in the parking lot, then you could kind of angle towards, I think they had a big like ski jump,
Yep,
like
yep.
yeah, angled towards the ski jump. That's like the direction you need to walk up, and you can get into these really beautiful cobble conglomerates, cobble to boulder conglomerates. And so you don't have to hike that entire
Right.
section, right? Like you could just get to the bottom of it and get some of those exposures, and then you could pull out the class or look at the class, look at the sorting of the class. I could look up my notes to you and pass
Oh,
those on. And then the ski hill itself, it's a really beautiful section of fluvial bases. And so there's a lot of really lenticular sandstone channel beds. There's lateral accretion surfaces. There's trough
mm,
cross stratification, ripple cross stratification. So there's all these
yeah.
really beautiful sedge structures in there. And then in all the little mudstone inner beds, if you pull any of those out, they're just loaded with plant fossils. So there's a really high organic content to
Mm,
all of the rocks in the Chumstick facies. So, I mean, it was a humid environment then, so it makes sense that these low gradient alluvial fan systems, braided stream dominated fans were probably vegetated, and all that is getting ripped up into those fluvial deposits. And so that whole section is pretty cool. I think it just depends how much you want to walk through it. And I have a measured section through there that I could dig up that would have all the said structures identified and the different bed
okay.
forms.
Well,
So
that
those are two good places to see those two different facies, essentially the Tumwater Mountain member, and then right where it's interfingering with the Clark
yeah.
Canyon.
Yeah. Remind us all the time that we're talking about and the grand drama surrounding this basin development. This is post Silesia?
Yep. So the Chumstick Basin initiates right around 49 MA, and we interpreted it as a pool part basin, which is a type of strike slip basin. So it's bounded by the Leavenworth and the Entiat fault zone, and those are both dextral strike slip faults. And so it formed between those basin bounding faults as a pool part structure. And so after you collide Silesia, we see this acceleration of strike slip systems and dextral strike slip in the Cascades. And so the
Yeah.
Leavenworth and the Entiat faults are all part of this larger dextral strike slip fault system and acceleration of strike slip faulting in the Cordillera in the Eocene and Eocene time.
I don't know if you ever really liked the way I was describing your basin, but I think I kept falling into this concept of the floor just dropping out and the sedimentation, everything's just filling the sandbox as we continue to play with the margins of the sandbox. Is that in a direction I should go if I'm now trying to think about the hook for the episode and maybe the surprising thing or two about all this sediment? Is it the thickness? Is it the rate at which things are filling the sandbox? What are some juicy things that I could include in the script that would really be a shock to our viewers?
Yeah, that I think that's pretty accurate and what our data supports with one of the best things about the Chumstick Basin is that it's loaded with these interbedded ashfall
Oh
deposits,
yeah,
these
yeah.
interbedded tuffs. And so Mike Eddy dated these tuffs, and we have this really high precision chronostratigraphy of the tuffs in the Chumstick Basin. And another really great thing about the tuffs is that they form marker beds throughout the basin. So they're more resistant than the other sandstone and conglomerate facies. And so you can actually track them from the northern to the southern part of the different subbasins and know where you are in the stratigraphic section. And Mike was able to date them in the north and the south part of the western subbasin. So we have this really beautiful chronostratigraphy that helps us understand our stratigraphic correlation. So how basin thickness is changing from the north to
Mm,
the south part of the subbasins. How is it changing just in between these different tephra units that we're kind of using as our marker beds? And what we've found is that the lower part, so the oldest part of the basin, it's only exposed in that southern part of the western subbasin. And we have extremely rapid sediment accumulation rates. So this does kind of support this idea that you have this rapid kind of like the basin floor just dropped out and we're just
yeah.
filling, dumping all these sediments into it. And then as we kind of move up section, as the pool part basin evolves, it kind of steadies out and it stays at a more, I guess, average rate, sediment accumulation rate you would expect for a pool part basin. So the lowermost part of the basin is around 7 millimeters per year, and then it kind of averages out to 2 to 3, which is more consistent with what we expect in strike slip systems. But it was a really big surprise when we saw like, oh, 6 to 7, millimeters a year. That's really, really rapid. And if we didn't have that high precision chronostratigraphy, you might just take an average of the whole stratigraphic section that's shown there and get an average around 3 millimeters per year. And so that's what's really amazing about using this high precision chronostratigraphy. It's allowing us to start to really understand these different nuances and these intricacies of pool part basin formation, that it's not all the same rate at the same time. Maybe it does have this really rapid initial phase and then it kind of steadies out.
I think that's new to me right now. Without those tough beds, you couldn't come up with those rates, right? You
Right.
couldn't keep track of time. And so we have to show the tough bed. Where can I find one of the McClincy toughs or your toughs or whatever? Like, is there a beautiful exposure someplace that's semi
There
easy
are,
to get to?
yes. If you just go up Eagle Creek, you look at
Yeah,
Canyon, it's the Eagle Creek Tuff,
right.
and it's a huge, I think it's, there used to be a winery there. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the outcrop is right before the winery, and it's just this beautiful outcrop of the Eagle Creek Tuff. Um,
Okay.
and
Well,
yeah, it's real
right
easy.
right along a public road. I can get the coordinates from you. I think I tried to chase them down on my own some December morning and there was too much snow or whatever. But like, so that's north of Leavenworth. So are we now getting up towards Plain? Excuse me.
It's not too far out of town. I was like looking at it on the map earlier. But yeah, if
Okay.
you go up the
Yeah.
Chumstick Highway, it's
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Clark Canyon and Eagle Creek Canyon are all, yeah, Eagle Creek Road. And so that's really, it's just north of Leavenworth.
Oh,
it's really
wow. Okay.
um Clark Canyon, it is a little more difficult, I think, to identify the tufts. It's not as obvious. I mean, once you tune your eye to it, you're like, oh man, that's right in front of me. But but Eagle Creek, it'll be really obvious. It's right on
Good.
the, it's a beautiful exposure. And it's, yeah, right north of Leavenworth, super easy to get to.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. So that has to be featured, especially if it doesn't look like a sandstone. Like even I'm going to be able to look at that and go, obviously this is airfall, essentially. Okay. Can we break that ash open and see anything inside?
Yeah, I mean it's a really thick. So the Chumstick has both ashfall and or airfall and flow. So there are more. So yeah, this is a really thick bed of tuff. But it's this really bluish green hue, so it should be very, very obvious.
Good.
And You break it open, you should be able to see the crystals pretty easily.
Pyroclastic flow?
Well, they're airfall and flow, but
But the
that's
but
how
the
kind of
flow is new to me. I mean, like we have footage of the golden horn from last season. Like we could literally make that tie. Mike seems pretty confident, and maybe you do too, that the age and the chemistry match between the golden horn and which of those tufts is for sure golden horn or all of them?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't mean to belabor it, but those tuff beds, there's half a dozen or so tuff beds throughout the section, roughly. And are some of them airfall only, and then a few are like a combo of airfall and some sort of flow from some nearby source?
I'd have to revisit the
Okay,
Quincy's work and
okay,
remember there's a combination of interpretations.
I see.
And whether or not that's just them being reworked on the actual low gradient like braided fan, because I mean one of the important things to remember is that these are getting deposited in these fluvial systems. And that
Oh
was
yeah,
always really impressive to me that you would have these cobble conglomerates and then you could walk in the next bed is one of these really thick tufts. So for them to be preserved on essentially this really low gradient braided stream dominated fan was really impressive to me. So these had to have been pretty thick. And so they have kind of reworked lower parts and reworked upper parts, probably from
I
being
see.
in this fluvial system. Um, but so when you wanna if you wanna crack open a piece, I would aim for like the middle part of the
Okay,
tuft to be thick.
yeah,
So
yeah.
but just that the upper and the lower parts might be a little reworked.
Love it. So I think I know what I'm going to do there. If I feature the big clasts over at the ski hill underneath the ski jump, what's my story there? What's your story there? That the source is outside of the basin and not right next door, but 30 kilometers to that whole strike slip thing with Mission Ridge. Is that the story that we could tell with those clasts at the ski hill?
So the class at the ski hill, I think we're a little more diverse, and there's definitely it's right
Oh,
where the water canyon member is interfingering with the Clark Canyon, so the basin axes facies. So there's a little
yeah,
bit of reworking, probably when you get into the more like finer grain conglomerates, the cobble to pebble, they're probably getting kind of mixed. You see this mixed signature from stuff that was being derived from the east, and then kind of the West dominated sources and the steep alluvial fans. The best place to see where it's, okay, we know it's derived from the West, the Western source areas would be like Mission Ridge or Devil's Gulch. And that's where you see those monolithic conglomerates. So they're 100%, tonalite clasts that were
yeah.
derived from the Mount Stewart batholith.
Hmm.
So that's always a good place to go. And I know you featured it on past videos, but that's kind of the spot. And and it's in the southern part of the Chumstick Basin. It's part of the oldest parts of the deposits, and that's where we kind of pin this 30 kilometers of offset from the Mount Stewart batholith as the source. The conglomerates, though, still in the northern part, I think it's a lot harder to get to some of the Tumwater Mountain facies in the northern part of the basin, but they
Yeah,
do still have this strong um, signature of being derived from Western sources. Those Western sources had just changed. It's not all the Mount Stewart batholith. There's like Chewauquam schist. There's all sorts of metamorphic clasts in there as well. So that location in the ski hills is just a nice place to see where the Tumwater Mountain and the Clark Canyon facies are interfingering.
okay.
And then I don't know how easily accessible, or it's easily accessible. I just don't know if it would be a good place to film is off the Chumstick Highway. And if you continue to go north, and now you're getting closer to Plain,
Yeah,
the railroad crosses the Chumstick Highway. And
Yep.
right at that location, there's one of the tuffs cuts through that outcrop, as well as it's kind of the conglomerate facies that are being derived from the west. So there are these cobble conglomerates, cobble to pebble conglomerates, but it's a really beautiful section of conglomerates. So
Okay. Okay.
but it's all on the road, so I don't know if I don't know, I guess I don't have a good understanding of what the traffic's like, or if it's gonna be loud, or if it's gonna be busy. I
Yeah.
don't remember it being too busy when we were there, but it's a really
Okay.
beautiful section of conglomerate, and there's some minor faults that are cutting through there too that are pretty easily visible. So that's a good spot. But yeah, for filming, I don't know if it's going to be too loud or,
Yeah.
but it's a really beautiful section of conglomerates. So
Well, Backcountry Gary's going to come over, and he and I are going to just visit. He'll see this interview, and then he and I will go out later this upcoming week and scout and think about sun position and traffic and other things. But you've given us plenty here. This is just what I was hoping for. I don't think we need to go to your visuals at all unless you feel like you want to. Um, Maybe we can wrap up with two final things. One, is that field guide something that I could use that was put together for that GSA meeting that
yeah.
would just get us to the Leavenworth, the ski hill outcrop and maybe a couple of others.
Mhm.
Um, and then maybe the last thing is, what's the most surprising thing if we just go back to like there wasn't a basin there at all before Silesia arrived? I don't know if that's true or not, but like, were those faults there? Was there any sedimentation there? Like, what did the valley look like? Was there a valley before Silesia shows up? Or are we truly creating this whole floor dropping, massive depositional basin from nothing? And then we kill it just as quickly as we started it, essentially? Like, is it still an active basin, or there was a glory days of that uh, filling story that shuts off dramatically at a certain time?
Yeah. There's been we don't know what's beneath. I'll say we don't know what's beneath the Chumstick
Okay.
Basin.
Yeah.
Have the two kind of major structural blocks are the Wenatchee and the Chelan block,
Yeah.
and where that boundary is beneath the Chumstick, we don't necessarily know. And remember, you have the Eagle Creek Fault Zone that's also subdividing the Chumstick Basin. So if is that following some sort of boundary?
Mm.
We're not sure, and that's kind of where the Wenatchee Dome has popped up right in the Eagle Creek Fault
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, these basins just so we don't know what's beneath it, but it's probably basement. And so like these basins really rapidly form, but they also rapidly die. So it was very, very short-lived. When we look at the age data, the Fairview Tuff is 49 MA, and then
Yeah.
the Eastern Subbasin with the new Tuff data kind of goes up to around like 46.5 or 40 with the Soonich Tuff, which is we date it, we collect it with you. That's a right around 46.7 MA, and that's near the top. So that whole Western Subbasin was deposited, so almost, like 8.5 kilometers between 49 MA and 46.5 MA. So just a few million years, and you have, 8 kilometers of sediment. So it's really rapid, formed rapidly, and died within a few million years.
I
And then
think that's it. Yeah. Go ahead,
yeah.
please.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and I think what's really, we already talked about it, was what the chronostratigraphy allowed us to do with understanding how those rates change throughout basin formation, and helps us better understand how these little strike slip basins form.
I think
But
that's it right there. The fact that this was an incredibly dynamic place for essentially 3 million years in the distant past, and there's been nothing like it since, anywhere close. Like, we don't just continue dumping or there's a dramatic slowing. Like, you're right at the surface in that basin and you're at 46 essentially, right? I mean, um, Okay, so that I think I want to go in that direction. Hey, would you hold the line, Erin, please? I want to chat a little bit more before we quit, but I'm going to hit the off
Yep.
button. And viewers, one more time, if you're a fan of this Nick on the Rocks video series and you know what we like to do visually and otherwise, you could help by leaving a comment down below just to add your thoughts on what you think we might uh, uh, emphasize or de-emphasize from this conversation with Erin or anything else. But maybe you have, if you were the director or the script writer for this little episode, what would you do based on what we're talking about here today? Okay, Erin, hang on just a sec, but thank you for your time this
Thanks.
morning, Erin
Fun.
Donaghy. Okay, bye-bye.